Did you know that the population for the Comox Valley encompasses not only the city of Courtenay, the town of Comox, and the village of Cumberland, also the Comox Valley Regional District. It makes up all of our population here in the Comox Valley. We decided to catch up with all 4 local governments to find out what's been happening and what have been the achievements. Courtenay, of course, is the largest center, and we're here now at City Hall with Mayor Larry Jangula. Larry, tell me, what have been the successes in the last 4 years?
Well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I had to sort of think about it for a while because you sort of forget about some of the things that have happened or some of the things you've done. But one of the things that probably leading into this last election and the election before was the issue with Maple Pool, the uncertainty, the court case, the uncertainty for the people living there and for the owners. And anyway, one of the first things we did in our mind is we dropped that court case. Came up with a resolution. Those people now living without a fear of being apprehended and moved out of there. So I think that was a huge win for the community. It was something that was very important to, I think, all of the communities. So that was probably our biggest first one. And we've had other wins too. We finally have progress happening on the Braidwood construction for the about a 33 unit supported housing type function. The old building that was, if you go by there now, it's right behind the old truck building. That house that's there is down, and then there's construction happening. So I'm not sure when they'll be available, but I'm hoping later this year. And that will, really help us with part of the problem that we have. Flood mitigation in the last 2 or 3 years, and actually beyond that, has always been a big issue. And you may have noticed that the tall wall, we call it, which has been erected from roughly Finneron's right to the bypass and back road. And that wall is not just a cement wall, it's actually a grouted cement wall, so it's actually like a barrier. In other words, water cannot come across it. Previous to that, we had a small set of barriers which were raised up so the water could drain out, but also it could drain in. And of course, doing that and those aqua dams, you've seen the aqua dams we put up occasionally, I think have given a great deal of comfort to a lot of those businesses that are in the Pontledge area. I know that some of them live in absolute fear of further flooding because some of them cannot get any further flooding insurance, or if they get insurance, it's so expensive they really can't afford to have it. And so this is something that I'm really glad that we took that step. There were actually people in the community who wanted us to buy out all those properties and turn it back into a floodplain or something of that nature, but the reality is our taxpayers haven't got enough money to pay for all that's commercial property, and there's some pretty expensive property in there. I think the other thing that's significant in the last couple of years is we purchased the old nightclub. It was called The Bridge, right at 5th Street, and the reason for that, it was a strategic purchase because we are looking at the day when we're going to have to replace that 5th Street bridge, and we're going to have to make it a bit wider, and we would require it. And in addition to that, owning that piece of property now gives us the first leg of potentially a walkway along the river. So we're waiting for the property behind it. We just looked at it a while ago, the Central Builders property to be redeveloped. And when that does happen, and we're hoping it'll happen soon, we'll then ask for them to move the property toward the bank and give us access along the river so that there's public access there. So I think that was a good move all the way around. We're looking at having 5th Street Bridge redone in 2019. I'm trying to move that forward. That's something we've been waiting for a long time. We basically have funding coming forward, and it would mean basically covering the bridge, sandblasting all the old lead paint off, collecting all that paint, priming and painting it. The bridge itself is structurally really good. In fact, Judi Hagan reminded me that bridge was actually initially built to be a railway bridge, a for steam trains, and so it's a lot stronger than the conventional car bridge. And we found that it's in excellent condition, so that's a good positive thing. You've heard probably a lot about asset management, and at first I have to admit I was somewhat skeptical about it, but I'm beginning to really think it's really an excellent thing. And what asset management is basically trying to do an assessment of your above ground and your underground facilities, such as water lines, sewer lines, not just the condition of the pavement. And I've been pushing pretty hard for additional paving, because in my opinion, we, over the last 10 years or so, have not done nearly enough. And I try to come up with a formula, and nobody will say how much you have to pave, but When you look at the fact that, so I asked the engineering department, like, how much pavement do we have? And it's actually amazing. We have about 250 kilometers of pavement that's ours. Now, things like Cliff Avenue, Mission Hill, Ryan Road, the bypass are provincial, but there are many, all the rest of the streets are all ours. And so I asked them, how long does an average piece of pavement last? And the answer was about 20 to 25 years. So if you look at that, we should be doing at least probably 10 to 15 kilometers of pavement a year. Well, last year we did 9.1, which is certainly an improvement. I'm pushing that we hopefully do more, because my fear is that if you let this infrastructure get ahead of you and get away from you, it's a huge financial kick for people down the road. The other thing that we're doing this year is the 5th Street project, which is about 5 or 6 blocks. And it's a pretty unique thing. It's called the Complete Streets, and there's not everybody in the public is 100% behind it or happy with it. I do have some concerns that it's $3.25 million to do like 5 blocks. And if we were to use that concept for the rest of our streets, it's probably 3 to 4 times that we would normally pay to do that. Now, saying that, that means we will be digging it up, replacing the water, replacing the sewer. And you've probably been following some of the controversy. I'm concerned that we didn't at the time, and it seems like someone dropped the ball or just didn't ask for enough money from the federal, because this is federal money we're spending on this. It's a federal program. Why we didn't bury the overhead services, the power and telephone lines, and why we didn't get rid of those telephone poles, some of them which come quite a ways out into the street. You know, and anyway, apparently that's not going to happen. And I tried really hard to push for that, but we basically feel we have to move on with it the way it is. And it's, you know, it will certainly be an improvement, and it'll certainly make the entranceway, the west entrance to Courtenay, a lot more presentable and bring us up to date. The other positive sign and good news is that we've had a significant increase in our applications for building. I'm going to leave a sheet with you about basically how many lots we've had over the past few years. And actually 2017, we have right in the hopper right now 410 additional lots and 90 that have already been okayed to go. So that's important, and that really brings up another one, I think what I call one of our challenges, which is basically housing, and especially rental housing, and housing for what I call the working poor. There seems to be a lot of emphasis in the community on subsidized, socialized housing that actually social services do. And I appreciate that that's their mandate, and I'm glad that they do that. But no one's kind of looking at the people that work in the restaurants, that work at the gas station, that look after you when you go anywhere you go. And the reality is that about 55% of us are seniors. And you know, we need these people, and they also need a place to live.
In addition to the housing, we also now have a UV treatment plant. So here we have the Comox Valley Regional District to tell you all about it. Charlie Gore is the project manager for the Comox Valley Regional District, and he is here in charge of the water treatment plant. He is going to make sure that we don't have to boil water anymore. Yes!
I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, and I've been employed up here by the Regional District to roll out some of the major capital projects we've got in the region, including some big sewer projects as the community grows, to just try and make sure that we stay ahead of the game and make sure that the community has all the services they deserve. Well, we're underway in doing a water treatment project, which is a multi-year adventure for the community to try and solve the water quality issues for the region. And in the interim, while we wait for grant funding to maximize our chances of grant funding, we have installed temporary UV treatment, which provides a second form of treatment for the community and can reduce our boil water notices by up to 80%.
Bob Wells is the city councilor for Courtenay, and he sits on the board that helps make decisions, and he's making sure we're spending our money wisely to get safe drinking water.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we're looking at a massive project ahead of us. It's not going to be completed till about 2021. So the fact that we're able to get the UV treatment in right away and reduce the boil waters by probably 80% or more means that, you know, you don't have that inconvenience for residential users and the added frustration and expense for restaurants and businesses.
This is a technology that will be part of our final solution. So what we've done is we've bought the reactors in advance and we've installed them on our system. And then once we get the major filtration treatment project going, we will move those UV reactors and we'll install them in our final plant.
Well, UV treatment is part of the bigger project that we're doing. And in fact, this reactor, you know, other than the cost of installation, but the actual cost of the reactor was already factored in with the larger treatment. And so once the actual treatment center is brought online, this UV reactor is actually going to be moved up there. So even though basically we've spent that money a little bit ahead of time, the whole idea is it just really is going to reduce those boil waters in the interim.
From the CVRD, this is Judi Murakami for Shaw TV. Did you know that the town of Comox is now debt-free? That is a great thing for the residents of Comox. And we're here outside Paul Ives' office, who is a lawyer by day and mayor for the town of Comox as well. So Paul, you are a full-time lawyer as well as the mayor. That's pretty demanding.
It has its challenges at times. I call the mayor's job a full-time commitment, but not necessarily a full-time job in the sense of going and sitting in the town hall on a full-day basis. The previous mayor in Comox was Jim Brass, a full-time practicing dentist, so he learned how to manage his time doing both, and I have done the same over the last, well, almost will be 10 years soon. That's created some good opportunities for people to assist me in making my jobs easier here at the law office, and also at Town Hall. We have really good staff in both places that keep me organized. Typically the busiest time of the year here at the law office is in the summer months for the real estate practice that I do. And so that's a quieter time usually at the town. The town is really, we're now in our busy season now at the town as we go through our strategic plan, set our budget, and then work towards some of the projects that we're going to be seeing done this year in Comox.
So Comox is a delightful town by the sea, and it's not really into economic growth because it's really geographically bounded. You can't really grow all that much.
Well, economic growth that we like to see in Comox includes anything to do with the marina, all the amenities and services that are down there. We recently completed some big projects and we'll be looking at some further ones there, attract more visitors and make the place a better place to visit. The downtown, of course, has a vibrant business community. We have new owners of the Comox Mall that have been doing some reinvestment. They've got some new projects underway. And we hope to see more residential development downtown that can support those businesses. That's been a real key focus over the last few years.
I noticed that your strategic plan included affordable housing. And are you working with Transition Society, or are you meaning more condos or townhouses?
The town has worked with the homeless group here in the community. We contribute on an annual basis. I just saw the check go out for $30,000 to support some of the projects, which includes the Transition Society. And we made that commitment a few years ago as part of the overall Valley commitment. But aside from that, we've also allowed for secondary suites to be built in owner-occupied homes without having to go through a zoning. So that allows for a building permit process, really quite simple. And then some of the other things that we've seen are the small lot subdivisions. And then, yes, of course, more multifamily. We have a proposal now for an 84-unit rental apartment building on Anderton, near just up the street from Comox Builders, and that'll provide some other housing options. So with the limited land base that we do have, we of course try to make the best of it. The other big economic generator, of course, is the military base. And the really exciting news is that they're doing a groundbreaking here later this week on the new fixed-wing search and rescue training center, which is quite a big building, about 70,000 square feet. It will create about 70 new jobs in the community over the next few years as the new fixed-wing search and rescue planes come on stream. And of course, this training center will feature some pretty high-tech simulators. And then, of course, you may have seen recently, we've been approached by a developer, a proponent who wants to build a cannabis innovation center near the traffic circle. And that will see, as it's completed, about 30 high-paying jobs. So we're looking at, 100 new jobs in the community and all the spin-offs that bring, and that will help create some economic growth within the town and make sure that we remain a good, livable place where people have the opportunities to use the parks and rec facilities and the other things that we are really quite proud of.
So your population base is a lot older than the rest of the valley, would you say?
Yeah, it trends towards the older demographic. We're really a bedroom community, almost, well, just over 14,000. We're not to the stage, I guess, where Parksville and Qualicum are in terms of their age. The nice thing we're seeing is more younger families coming into town. I know Cumberland has certainly attracted more of those, but we, again, are a very attractive community. We're very walkable. We've got great recreation facilities and parks and other amenities that families seem to really enjoy. So as I mentioned, with those 100 new jobs, those will be people with families presumably coming into town, maybe some of the younger families. The demographic of age 25 to 44 is starting to grow again, which is good news.
So would you say that your taxes are lower in Comox than in Courtenay?
The tax rates are comparable. Our property values generally are higher. So, I would say that overall our tax rates are competitive with Courtenay from both a residential and a commercial side of it. One of the things we looked at recently was our development cost charges. We've reduced those in the downtown. So for new developments in downtown, that'll actually make it more attractive. So we've got also an incentive plan there, which will, for eligible projects, multifamily projects, they get up to an 8-year tax holiday on those residential tax rates. So those are some creative tools that we've done. But comparable, I suppose, our expenses are lower, but we've got less of a commercial tax base as well. We probably have 80% residential, 20% commercial, whereas Courtenay probably trends 60-40. But then they've got higher costs and things like policing and fire than we do. So, we benefit from good financial management long before I got to be mayor. We've had a pay-as-you-go approach. And the good news for 2018 is that we'll be debt-free this year. We've paid off all our loans that we used to acquire library space, recreation center space, and that'll give us a lot of flexibility going forward to continue to invest back into the community's infrastructure.
I noticed that the police chief comes and reports on a quarterly basis to the council. Do you have a fairly positive working relationship?
Yeah, excellent relationship with Inspector Walton. He does reside in the town of Comox as well. We instituted that reporting requirement a few years ago, and that works out really well. We can exchange ideas and some of the concerns that go on with the policing. We benefit from good service from them, and along with our firefighters, we feel we're a fairly safe community. In fact, based on crime stats, we're the second safest community in the whole province after Bowen Island. So, it's quiet, and maybe the sidewalks do roll up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday, but I think because of our population and just the way we are situated here in the Comox Valley, we have a very safe place.
And achievements and challenges in the last 4 years?
I would say the achievements that I'd like to make reference to particularly are the waterfront improvements. With the water park we did, that was a really good project with partners like the Rotary Club and others who helped us along with our senior levels of government. I think the challenges are more at the regional level, making sure that we have good, safe drinking water. Of course, the sewer system needs upgrades. If you add all those capital projects at the regional district, it's $150 million. So the real challenge going forward for all the communities that use those services is to make sure that those improvements can be made with help from senior levels of government. I know we've got a $75 million ask out there for the water treatment, and no doubt we'll be asking for help on the sewer. So those remain challenges at a regional level. I think some of the other achievements of note, other than the debt reduction, is the expansion of the rec center over the last 10 years has been very popular, very well received, an award-winning facility. It's something I go to almost every day myself, and to see people take advantage of that, create a more active, healthy community. And I suppose the other one that we're looking forward to some movement on is the future role of St. Joseph's Hospital site as they move more towards seniors care, as they move the acute care facility, of course, up to the new hospital.
We're here in the village of Cumberland talking to Mayor Leslie Baird. Cumberland is one of the fastest growing communities in BC. It's also one of the youngest. It's vibrant, it's hip. Today it's raining, but normally it's a wonderful place to be. Tell me, what does being the mayor of Cumberland involve?
A lot of fun, a lot of work, and meeting people all the time and talking to people. And it's really interesting in the perspective that some people bring to you, the things that you don't think of. And so it's good to hear other people's point of view.
So what can you tell me about the last 4 years from your tenure? What has been accomplished in the village of Cumberland?
Well, I started going through the annual general reports, and I was absolutely amazed at the amount of work that our staff and council have done over the last 4 years. And the start of it was in 2012 we updated the OCP, which leads to a lot of other reports that need to be updated, that led to the zoning updating. So that was a huge one. It took over a year, and it brought us into compliance with the OCP.
Now, what is OCP?
The Official Community Plan.
And what was your plan to do for the 2014 to 2018?
Oh, we do a strategic priorities session. Actually, we're doing one this Friday, and council sets their agenda for the coming year. And we have immediate plans that we want to accomplish, 4-year term plans, and then longer plans. Sewer, water, and roads are never off your list. They're always the top, and they're dealt with every single year.
And what kinds of things have happened in Cumberland?
Oh, well, the council was very supportive in forming a number of committees, and we formed the Accessibility Committee, the Homeless and Affordable Housing Committee, the Advisory Planning Commission, and the Heritage Commission. And those groups are all working very hard on behalf of the village and add a great deal of input into the direction that council goes.
So does the money from the council go to the museum? Because I noticed they are now handicapped accessible.
Yes, they are. The Recreation Department and the museum applied for a grant and received a grant, and it updated the entrance to the museum to make it accessible, and what an improvement it's made. It looks amazing.
And Cumberland apparently is one of the fastest growing, youngest communities in BC.
Yes, it is something that we're very proud of. The schools are just bursting, and it's wonderful to see the mums with the kids out walking. They're on the trails, they're everywhere. What has happened is brought a lot of very good volunteers to the community, and they get amazing things done.
So you not only have the Cumberland Forest as your backdrop, but you also have a very vibrant downtown scene.
Yes, we're very fortunate in that way. We have a couple of businesses that are the main anchors and I know you can walk downtown any night of the week, and it's just going crazy. It's amazing to see. When years ago you'd walk downtown on a Sunday and you wouldn't see anybody. Now it's one of the busiest days of the week.
And with the Cumberland Society, how successful are they at, I guess, saving or preserving the forest?
Oh, they've been very successful, and they're going to continue working towards the forest and saving it. I think what they did was amazing, and they have a term that they used is that the forest is retiring.
The forest is retiring?
Retiring from logging.
Oh, I see.
And it's being used for other things that benefit the community.
So if you were to do a promo for the village of Cumberland to someone who's never heard of it, how would you describe it in a nutshell?
Very young, active community, many, many things to do, especially if you like biking, but there's walking trails and ATV trails. So there's a mixture for everybody of every age.
So you've got an active recreation center.
Yes.
You have a senior center.
Yes.
You have restaurants, you have a brewery.
Yes, we do.
And you have, well, you're expanding. You can't go past the lake, but then I see there's lots of development that's happening with housing developments, and they're sort of creeping, not backwards, they're creeping past the boundaries or
our boundary covers a great deal of land. We are surrounded, or we're surrounded by forest companies. And they're really not forest companies anymore. Some of them, they're land developers, and they sell off their land. And once they do that, of course, we want to regulate what's going to be built and how it's going to be built. And that's what we're doing. Trilogy was on council table on Monday, That's a major development in the community. So we've got a lot of process to go through and a lot of input from residents, and because most of the residents were here when Trilogy was passed, and so it's a learning also for them.
What is Trilogy?
It's a land development that is 700 plus acres of land, and it goes out, most of it's out on the highway, and it's all to be developed into commercial and residential.
So would you say the City Council is pro-development?
I don't know if they're pro-development or if it's something that they've inherited. Some of them were not on council when that was approved, and so you look at what it would bring to the community and how it would help. One of the things that has happened is the tax increases, and that's from upgrading sewer and water. That is mandated by the provincial and federal governments, and we have no choice. We have to do it. And not only do we have to do it, we want to do it. And so that puts a huge burden on the existing taxpayers, because whether you live here or you live in Victoria or Nanaimo, it still costs the same to put pipes in the ground, your employees, or you're contracting out. So that burden is left to the residents of Cumberland. So we're looking at ways to ease that burden. And it's unfortunately one of the things is development that will pay for that.
So with the new regulations coming down the pike with smoke and pollution, how did the Christmas trees get processed after Christmas?
I think they canceled their project, and it's unfortunate because there was the possibility of chipping, which Courtenay and Comox and other community fire departments do. But I hope they take it up again next year and chip it.
Because chipping just goes back to the environment.
Yes, it does. Yes. And it's like anything new, even when it started the smoking bans and that, people really didn't realize the impact that smoking had on people, secondhand smoke or whatever. And now they're just starting to realize how important it is to have good, clean air.
Mm-hmm. That's probably one of the best things that we need to ensure that for good health and longevity.
Yes, and we got our information from the public health officer, medical health officer, and it was very good information that we received as a council.
So if people want to learn more about the city or the village of Cumberland, where do they look?
They look on our website.
Thanks to all our officials who appeared on the show. This is Judi Murakami for Shaw TV.